Smoke curled from the western rim of the 14 fires, slow and silken as a maiden's braid, yet threaded with the deep red glow of magma that thrummed beneath Valyria's blackened crust. The peninsula breathed in restless pulses, each exhalation carrying a taste of brimstone across alabaster cities whose towers glittered with fused glass and pyro. Stone streets shimmered like beaten bronze in the heat, and the air was thick with the scent of sulfur, salt, and dragon musk, an aroma so familiar to Valyrians that it stirred in them the same comfort other realms felt for fresh rain or harvest grain. Beneath vaulted arches of obsidian, slaves swept ash from marble verandas while nobles in silvery lorica watched the sky's grand ballet, dragons large as carracks soared above, their wings painting vast shadows that rippled over harbor basins crowded with purple-sailed galleys. Far inland, where the city's riot of domes and bridges declined into terraced vineyards and razor-sharp obsidian cliffs, the palatial manse of House Marigore perched like a citadel over the molten sea. Its master, Lord Valar Marigore, stood alone upon a windswept balcony, gauntlet hands resting on the stone balustrade etched with draconic runes so old that even the language scholars disputed their meaning. Valar's eyes, wise, unblinking, violet as stormlit amethyst, followed the lazy spiral of his eldest dragon, Mithraxis. Her scales shimmered between midnight blue and oil-slick black, mirroring the volcanic haze. She was 2 centuries old and twice as clever as any man, yet she banked into the hot thermals exactly where Valar willed, as though reading the quiet lilt of his mind. Behind him, footsteps whispered on the obsidian tiles. A figure approached, Mina, firstborn of the house, her braid wrapped in copper wire to ward off sparks when near hatchlings. She carried a scroll roll bound in pale basilisk hide. From its mouth glimmered parchment so brittle with age it might have been penned in the dawn of Valyria's dominion. Mina unfurled the strip and flattened it beside her father on the balustrade, holding it with twin rods of weirwood. There, she murmured, voice hushed as temple chanting. The sigils matched the cavern of breathless fire, the one the guild of miners abandoned. She tapped an inked spiral flanked by crude claw marks. The breathless slopes may house untouched deposits of auriferous obsidian, but I believe the script refers to something older. Valar traced the worn symbols with a mail-clad finger. Around them, twilight deepened, the sky bleeding from amber to garnet. Older than or, he asked. Eggs, Mina whispered. Or something like eggs. At the sound of wings behind them, both turned. Younger brother Eric had chosen that moment to arrive astride Sarethrax, a lean copper-scaled male only 6 years out of the shell. The dragon's landing rocked the upper terrace. Ash billowed, cinders danced over Eric's leather hauberk. He dismounted with a brazier's glow in his cheeks, eyes wild with that fierce delight only riders knew, the pulse-matched union of 2 hearts beating in tandem. His grin faltered when he saw the scroll. You're hunting lore again, he said, voice crackling. Father, the Conclave warns against unchaining secrets older than our house. They fear the fractures beneath the 14 fires widen daily. Some speak of a doom that sleeps under stone. Doom is a word for men who lack mastery, Valar answered. We will not fear our birthright. Valyria is forged from flame and blood. Fire obeys the will that dares to shape it. Mina rolled the parchment tighter. Then we depart tomorrow before first light. The cavern of breathless fire lies beneath the 3rd caldera. We'll need masks, sap seals, and a whisper of stealth. My spies say rival House Aurelian dispatches their own seekers, grave worms gnawing at our heels. Eric's reply was lost in the keen of Sarethrax, who lifted his head, pupils narrowing to serpent slits as he cast one wing forward to shield his rider from a sudden gust. Across the basalt roofs, the horizon flashed with sullen crimson lightning. Storms brewed nightly over the volcanic chain, yet this flicker was uncanny, weaving through the sky like living script, runes drawn in lightning's ink. That night in the Hall of Obsidian Flames, the household gathered around the central hearth where dragonfire danced caged within wrought iron lattices. Shadows spilled across pillars carved to resemble twisting necks. Flameborn motifs writhed along the onyx floor, hinting at ancient privacies, cults of color, schools of binding, songs coaxed from tongues no man now spoke. At Lord Valar's left sat Pyre-seer Calyrex, whose blindfold of beaten gold concealed cataract eyes that yet beheld other visions. Her skin was carved with rivulets of scarification, maps of eruptions past and future, so, she claimed, a dragon might read her flesh and tell her secrets. When the embers snapped loud enough to hush the table, Calyrex turned her sightless gaze upon Valar. The cavern you seek lies beneath a river of sleeping fire, she croaked. Its vents breathe smoke too thin to carry scream or song. But under that hush stands a door older than your line. The door drinks blood and pays back prophecy. Eric stiffened. What blood? Blood enough to echo, said the seer. Valyr inclined his head. Then echo it shall. Dawn rose parchment gray veiled by ash. 3 dragons launched from the manse's tiered eyrie, Nithraxis, vast, Sarathrax, swift, and Mina's own Relith, whose pale opalescent scales caught the smothered sun like mother-of-pearl glimpsed beneath waves. They flew over terraced vineyards where enslaved hands clipped smolder grapes to ferment serpent wine. They dipped south along rivers of obsidian cooled into rivers of glass, then angled steep toward the chain's smoldering peaks. Each rider wore a mask of wyvern leather laced with ghost vine serum to filter noxious fumes. As they neared the 3rd caldera, the land cracked into glassy ravines. Steam hissed from fissures curling like question marks above charred scrub. At the crater's lip lay the cavern of breathless fire, no more than a circular maw 4 wagon lengths across, rimmed in stalactites the color of flayed bone. No wind stirred inside, the opening devoured sound, swallowed breath. Even the dragons trembled. Their neck spines bristled, their eyes glowed ember-bright as they sniffed the air. Valyr signaled descent. Nithraxis folded her wings, dropping like a falling star before flaring wide to alight upon a ledge inside the throat. The others followed, gripping basalt talons on stone. A faint vibration thrummed underfoot, steady like a heartbeat beneath mountain scale. Torchlight revealed a stair cut in ancient days, steps worn smooth by sandal and claw alike. Glyphs of the Dawn Age marched down its face, serpents devouring sun disks, moons wreathed in flame. Mina pressed a hand to the wall, feeling heat pulse through the stone like dragon breath. Below, the stair delivered them into a vault domed with fused glass. In its center loomed a door shaped not by tools but by molten rock whipped into architecture while still hot. It bore no hinges, no latch, just a slit too narrow for even a blade. Around it pooled veins of crimson ore that smoked without flame. Pyreseer Calyryx's words echoed, "The door drinks blood." Mina drew her dagger. Eric reached first, tilting his palm. "Mine," he insisted. The cut beaded scarlet. Blood touched the slit, a lull followed, silent, timeless. Then the stone convulsed. Metallic groans rippled through the chamber as seams cracked open like petals. The door parted, releasing a gust of breath so cold it rhymed their torches with frost. Beyond lay a corridor glazed in pale quartz that shimmered with tiny prisms. In its mirrored walls they saw not their own reflections but those of long-dead dragon lords in ceremonial regalia, faces smooth, eyes lit with a secret fire. Each phantom rider stroked an invisible egg, cradling it with reverence. Mina's heartbeat stuttered. These were memories made material, echoes starved of time. The corridor opened into a cavern vast enough to drown a cathedral. At its heart floated a sphere of crystallized fire, like a sun caught mid-birth, suspended by unseen force. Around the sphere orbited shards of obsidian etched with star maps in drifting spirals. Beneath, upon terraces descending to a pool of quicksilver, lay something neither fully mineral nor fully flesh. Rows of oval forms, each the size of a man's torso, their shells mottled with veins of gold and violet. Dragon eggs, hundreds, perhaps thousands, slept in neat cradles carved of living rock. Eric stepped forward slack-jawed, a clutch untouched since Valyria's first breath. Mina sank to her knees, glove brushing the nearest shell. It pulsed warm beneath her palm, as though the embryo within stirred at her touch. Whispering filled the cavern, a chorus of unborn voices. She glanced at her father. His violet eyes glimmered like twin shards of Nithraxis's fire. But the moment shattered as steel chimed behind them. From the corridor emerged rival House Aurelian's foragers, black-helmed, cloaks emblazoned with sun serpents devouring crowns. Crossbow limbs clicked, barbs gleamed with wyvernbane. Their captain, Lady Calyra Aurelian, swept forward, face half-masked by lacquered bone. "So the Marigors gnaw at roots too deep," she mocked, voice echoing. "Did you truly believe you alone heard the cavern's hush?" Valyr spread his gauntlet hands, unarmed only in pretense. "Calyra, step carefully. That sphere above will not brook violence. Nor will the dragons outside, whose hearts beat through mine." She smiled, lips thin. "Outside, perhaps? But under stone? Your beasts wait above. Mine crawl beneath." She snapped her fingers. Chasms yawned at the cavern's edge as lava WIRMS, pale and blind, slithered forth, scaled like molten glass, each the girth of a galleous mast. They coiled around the egg terraces, sulphurous breath misting the air. The ground trembled. Overhead, the sphere flared, shifting from pale fire to seething scarlet. The shard rings accelerated, slicing currents of pressure that made ears bleed. Mina felt the heartbeat of the eggs quicken, echoing panic. One shell cracked, spider lines racing. A squeal, tiny, shrill, escaped. "Enough," Valyr thundered. He raised a hand. Nithraxis's distant roar crashed down the corridor, a physical blow. Yet Valyria advanced, gesturing her WYRMS. Then the sphere cracked. Light speared downward, blazing through Mina's chest, igniting a vision. Cities drowned in green fire, dragons shrieking, sky torn by rifts. A doom, not future but past, replayed at once, infinite, blistering. When the light receded, Mina lay trembling on the crystal floor. Around her, silence. Valyria had frozen mid-step, eyes wide pools of fear. Her WRMS writhed blindly, wounded by a radiance they could not comprehend. Valyr hauled Mina upright. "The eggs will not survive chaos," he whispered. "Nor will we." He strode to the cracked shell, lifting the newborn onyx-scaled hatchling. It mewled, curling tail around his wrist. Mina felt the cavern hold its breath. "This chamber is no vault," Valyr said aloud. "It is a womb, and we are its midwives or its butchers." Valyria's gaze flickered to the hatchling, to the rows of yet unbroken shells. Greed warred with awe in her face. At last, she sheathed her sword. With a curt gesture, her WYRMS retreated into smoking cracks. "Share the spoils, then," she said. "One clutch to each house, and peace between us until the last shell breathes." Valyr nodded, though something shadowed his eyes. Mina sensed the treaty would fray like rotten rope once sunlight touched ambition. But for now, the cavern calmed. The sphere dimmed to gentle hearth glow. Shards drifted slower, resuming old orbits. They set to cataloging. Mina recorded shell patterns, measuring hearts with soundstone rods. Eric coaxed 2 more hatchlings from shattered eggs, singing in Valyrian cadences. Valyria's men secured crates lined with silk and smolder sand. Hours passed. Torch oil dwindled. Still eggs remained uncounted. At last, Valyr called halt. "We leave before the sphere grows restless again. Mina, mark the route. Eric, guard the hatchlings." Yet as they turned to depart, the corridor behind them echoed with a new sound, slow, deliberate footsteps and the scrape of something heavy dragged across quartz. A figure emerged, Higher Seer Calyrex, though none had summoned her. She walked unaided, gold blindfold gleaming. In her right hand she bore a blade of fused dragonglass so black it drank torchlight. "Calyrex?" Valyr murmured. The seer spoke not to him but to the sphere above. "The door has tasted blood," she intoned, voice layered as if many throats chanted within her. "Now the womb must drink fire." She raised the blade toward the sphere. Light coursed down her arm, veins blazing white. The sphere shuddered, shards veered, orbit fraying. Mina screamed for Eric to run, for Valyr to lift her onto Relith, but sound drowned in the rising roar, a crescendo like all the 14 fires erupting at once. In that instant, as cracks spidered through the cavern wall and the quicksilver pool boiled, Mina knew the fragile truce would disintegrate, that Valyria's cradle quivered upon the cusp of awakening or annihilation. And that whatever fledgling truth hatched here tonight would grow to shadow the empire that birthed it. They burst skyward in a storm of ash. The cavern below collapsed, swallowing eggs, WIRMS, and rivals alike in a torrent of obsidian shards. Relitha's wings hammered the heat as Mina clung to the newborn hatchling tucked beneath her cloak. Above, Nithraxis shrieked, her voice a clarion mourning. Sarathrax followed close, Eric's face streaked with soot and tears. When they gained height enough to see the eastern horizon, dawn broke anew, this time tinted lurid crimson, a false sunrise birthed from the caldera's breach. Lava geysers speared the sky, clouds ignited from within. The 14 fires had woken angry. Far below, the citadels of Valyria glittered oblivious, their spires drinking dawnlight like wine. Mina wondered how long that oblivion would last. She pressed the hatchling close, feeling its tiny furnace heartbeat in sync with her own. In its mirrored eyes she saw not merely reflection but a future flaring toward them, uncertain, perilous, magnificent. And so they flew, trailing embers behind leather wings, toward destiny's simmering horizon while the unborn songs of 1,000 dragons trembled beneath ruptured stone, awaiting their hour. Moonlight lingered as a translucence upon the black glass plain where Valyria's tide met a caldera-flung delta, turning every ripple of seawater into a shard of morning mirror. Mina Marigore set Relith down on an outcropping of basalt that jutted above the boiling surf. Steam clung to her braids and jeweled clasps until each loop of copper wire glittered like a chain of frost. Eric circled once, unwilling to land until he was certain nothing stirred beneath the oily waves. Mithraxis, grand matriarch of their line, banked higher still, her ember eyes never leaving the distant volcanoes whose veins now seeped braids of molten gold into the night air. For a span Mina remained astride her dragon, heart hammering with the frantic drumbeat of flight. The newborn hatchling, ink black with flecks of starlight silver, nestled in the crook of her elbow, wings not yet unfolded. Its lungs wheezed, drawing in each breath as though the world were too vast. She pressed her mask's breathing vents near its snout and opened her own valves wider, sharing the filtered air. The creature's eyes fluttered, pupils thin slits, until life steadied behind the membrane. Valyr touched his daughter's boot with a mailed hand. Inside the scoria cove, it will be warmer. He raised his voice, half command, half prayer. Eric, bring kindling, and see whether Sarythrax can fish beneath the shelf. Ash or no, the sea still brims with scuttlers. Eric wheeled in response, guiding the copper dragon to skim the foam. When his talons broke the water, flecks of half-cooled magma hissed along the surface, yet something larger churned, perhaps a shrieking squid or deep-fire eel. Sarythrax plunged a foreclaw, drew up a prey beast the length of a dow's mast, and flung it onto the basalt ledge. The carcass steamed in the chill wind. They chose a cave cut by centuries of acidic spray, its walls veined with ruby quartz that pulsed faintly as though sharing heartbeat with the peninsula. Here they built a brazier of dragon breath stone. Valyr coaxed a puff from the hatchling, barely a spark glowing against his cuirass. The flame caught tinder of dried marrow kelp, igniting blue and steady. Light danced across their faces, soot-masked, hair wind-whipped, eyes bloodshot but bright. Only then did the silence widen enough to swallow what they had seen. Mina, staring into the hatchling's two large eyes, felt her jaw tighten with the pressure of withheld words. She spoke them anyway. How many perished? Kalira's men, the eggs, the seer. Valyr turned a sliver of fish on his dagger, juices dripping onto the coals with a hiss. The cavern collapsed entire. If anything remains, it's buried leagues beneath vitriol rivers. Eric crouched, arms wrapped around his knees. Yet the 14 fires woke. I heard them, father. A pulse through bone. The northern sky burned for an hour after we fled. We angered something older than legend, Mina said softly. The sphere that broke, what was it? Does lore speak of such? Valyr raised his gaze toward the cave mouth where Mithraxis coiled like a living sentry. The oldest scrolls tell of kernels of the world. Infants of gods, some said, seeds of suns left over from creation hidden beneath Valyria so dragon lords could study fire greater than dragons. But myth drapes truth in riddles. What we beheld might have been essence of fire made flesh. It answered blood and prophecy. It also destroyed upon whim. In that dim shelter Mina grasped a truth far sharper than obsidian blades. The doom whispered about in street taverns, feared by maesters, might not be a single instant of cataclysm but a chain of tremors whose first link had cracked tonight. How many such kernels slumbered? How many more doors thirsted for blood? The hatchling shifted, tired after the ordeal of birth and flight. Mina laid it upon a bed of Eric's cloak, near enough that Relitha's warm breath bathed its scales. Already the little creature's color changed, mottled black giving way to purple undertones like those of twilight cradling the first star. She brushed a fingertip beneath its jaw and felt the tremor of its voice, a murmur smaller than a songbird's. Name? Eric asked, smiling though his eyes held sorrow. Nyaxares, she answered, in the old tongue, child of dying light. Valyr nodded once as though approving of both name and moment. But after, he said, we have salvaged one egg. That shell split by fate. There might be others within our saddlebags. Eric, inspect. The younger rider dug through soot-caked pouches fastened behind Sarythrax's saddle. From one he drew an oval shape swaddled in padded silk condensed from spider silk glands beneath the glass vineyards. Its shell gleamed midnight green shot with scarlet. Eric set it near the fire. A low thrum rippled through the cavern and each of them glanced about for hiding dangers. It was only the egg answering heat. 2 lives, Valyr murmured. Perhaps a third if luck stayed Kalira's hand and she fled with spoils. Yet beyond number of GS, something else escaped tonight, knowledge. He reminded them of the corridor mirrors where visions of primordial dragon lords played like echoes of the dead. That reflection, he said, was not memory alone. It was instruction. Those ancients wanted their heirs to witness how they nurtured eclipse fire eggs, how they bound them to house and hearth. Yet the picture flickered incomplete. We gleaned a fragment. The rest lies buried. Mina touched the egg again, palm tingling. A swirl of warmth pulsed through her veins, carrying with it a soup of pulses, alien, melodic, deliberate. Suddenly she sensed more than physical warmth, a pattern of thought, a static hum of unspoken syllables resonating beneath skin. She almost recoiled, but Valyr laid his hand atop hers. "You feel the lumen," he whispered. "The living code each dragon pulses during gestation. Listen, and you will know when to tilt the shell, how to calibrate flame." Eric listened too, pressing ear to the shell. His pupils dilated until iris and sclera nearly vanished. "Songs," he said under breath. "Tiny songs." Mina shivered at the wonder and terror of it. If every egg contained a chorus and every chorus could awaken world-shaping power, then their house, or any house, might command storms by raising these infants. Or destroy entire realms along the way. The hours bled into one another. Fish roasted, they ate without appetite. Dragons dozed with wings embracing rock. When at last the sky paled from obsidian to a dusty pearl, a promise of dawn hidden behind ash, Valyr stood and looked east. "We cannot return to Valyria as we left," he said. "The conclave will sense upheaval, blame whomever they choose. Rival houses will lick the air for rumor. We, possessing a living hatchling, will draw eyes. So we hide?" Eric asked. "We protect until truth clarifies," Valyr corrected. "A fortress remote, loyal only to our banner." Mina imagined a holdfast on the outer archipelago where marrow pirates sailed and storms spread like endless night, but she voiced a different thought, the dragon roads. Valyr's brow arched. She explained, "We can travel them while the conclave's agents scan sky and harbor. The tunnels once used by stone miners still course beneath the peninsula. They lie abandoned, but the maps survive. Some shafts open 200 leagues north, near the storm coils. Rumors claim pockets of hot air allow dragons to traverse at glide." Valyr mulled the plan while acid wine sighed through the cave mouth. "Risk and chance," he said at length. "But risk here is greater. If the kernels continue to stir, the entire mainland might quake." He regarded Nithraxis. "You and I will seal the route behind so no foe pursues." They spent the next day gathering water condensed off cooled lava pipes and netting salt crabs for rations. By dusk they were aloft again, gliding northward under cover of thick smoke plumes that shimmered copper in the fading light. The air chilled as they climbed along the peninsula's spine, peaks sawtoothed beneath them. Occasionally they glimpsed far-off columns of fire-reaching clouds, fresh evidence that other calderas had ruptured. Yet no horns, no war banners rose from the cities. Valyria slept in hubris or ignorance still. The first tunnel mouth appeared halfway up a wedge of granite shaped like a whale's back. It yawned open, rimmed with black icicles of vitrified obsidian. Carved pillars flanked the entrance, though centuries of acid rain had eroded them into mere silhouettes of serpents entwining torches. Mina guided Relith to perch. The ledge offered space for 2 dragons only. Valyr and Nithraxis landed higher, while Eric circled until a gust lifted him onto a spur beyond. With torches lit, they stepped into the dark. The dragons hesitated, stone ceilings too low for wings. But they followed after the riders dismounted, crawling on folded limbs. Immediately the heat of the surface receded, the air smelled of damp stone, rusted ore, and faint sweeter notes, like myrrh seeping through cracks from forgotten altars. Miles of passage stretched ahead, carved wide enough for ore carts once dragged by slaves. Faded frescoes dusted both walls, showing miners dwarfed by giants of fire, perhaps mythical or perhaps early dragons bound in chain collars. The art changed style deeper in, shifting from realism to abstract glyphs repeating swirl spiral motifs identical to those on the door that drank Eric's blood. Mina led, ears attuned. Several times the hush parted for subterranean groans as though the peninsula's ribs cracked anew. Dust fell like dead snow. The hatchling Nyaxares nestled inside her cloak pouch, snout resting at her collarbone, warm enough that his breath misted strands of her hair. At an intersection they paused. The main tunnel veered downward. A slope blacker than pitch. Offshoots branched left and right, each marked by runes listing or types, Ignir, Oriphan, Pyrestone. Valyr consulted a torn map etched atop thin silver sheeting. West spur ends in a vertical shaft, he noted. East ramp connects to the Vale bridges. Eric suggested a rest. The dragons eased onto their bellies. As Mina sipped water, she felt the egg in Eric's satchel vibrate rhythmic as footsteps. She exchanged glances with her brother. "Another shell soon?" he whispered. "Too soon," Valyr said, voice lined with worry. "Eggs hatch when song meets flame. Here there is neither." Yet the cadence persisted. Mina removed the egg and set it between them. Veins glowed crimson along its shell, carving patterns like root networks. Something inside hammered faintly. Heat, Mina guessed. She beckoned Nyaxares, coaxed a puff of smoke from the hatchling's tiny lungs. It warmed the egg but also made the shell pulse more violently until cracks spidered. In moments, a wedge popped loose, revealing a snout bathed in glimmering membrane. The newborn collapsed halfway out, slick with amniotic fluid. But whereas Nyaxares bore midnight hues, this creature's scales shimmered teal with gold flecks. Its wings were nearly translucent, veins shining turquoise. It sneezed, expelling flame that scorched Mina's glove. She gasped but met its eyes, green pools fusing moment by moment into draconic clarity. Eric crouched in wonder. "Sibling to Nyaxares," he said. Valyr nodded. "Twins, perhaps, by lore's reckoning. They must bond together or risk frenzy." The teal one trembled, Nyaxares chirped and wriggled free of Mina's cloak to crawl toward his sibling. They touched snouts, exhaling steam like miniature furnaces. "Comfel. We cannot stay long," Valyr reminded them. He severed a length of salted fish, feeding bite-sized chunks to both newborns. The hatchlings devoured with needle-sharp teeth, twin tails coiling around Mina's wrists. They resumed. The dragons padded behind, mindful not to crush riders. As they progressed, the tunnel's masonry shifted again, flat plains replaced by curved arches and columns with no tool marks, as though extruded by molten rock that solidified at command. At regular intervals, they passed circular apertures cut through floor and ceiling, vertical shafts emitting gusts of heated wind smelling of cinnamon and iron. At one such aperture, Mina bent to peer into the void. Light flickered deep below, orange but muted. The breath of unseen fire brushed her cheeks. She leaned closer, eyes adjusting, until she discerned a colossal chamber far beneath, walls encrusted with reflective or that lit sparks like constellations. Within that chamber lay no treasure but a singular object, another sphere of crystallized fire, larger than the first, perhaps thrice the height of a man. This one pulsed steady, veins of light crawling across its surface. She jerked backward, heart pounding. If one kernel had shattered, others awaited. And here, so close underfoot, another slumbered. Eric read her gaze. Without speaking, he picked up a fallen shard of obsidian shaped like a dagger. He tossed it into the shaft. Soundless seconds passed, then light flared as the shard vaporized before reaching the chamber floor. Mina imagined that same energy unleashed, tearing the peninsula like cloth. They pressed on. After hours, a soft breeze scented with brine met them, a sign they neared the exit. When the tunnel disgorged onto a cliff ledge beneath the night sky, the cold sea air shocked their lungs. Above, stars flickered behind ragged ash clouds. No light from Valyrian cities reached here. This was the storm coil's realm of pirates and thunder. They raised camp upon a rocky plateau reachable only by wing. A freshwater spring trickled among wind-carved arches. The dragons drank greedily. Nyaxares and his teal sister, whom Eric named Thalorys, wave-colored flame, nested near Relitha's flank, occasionally snapping at moths. Days blurred. They hunted goat, tamed shoreline eels, fletched bolts from bone, all while scanning horizon for sails. Twice they sighted brigantines, but those kept distance, wary of dragon silhouettes perched like watch statues. Valyr dedicated hours to the hatchlings, teaching them to perch on outstretched forearm, to direct their delicate flame toward targets of driftwood, to recognize the command tones of High Valyrian. He hammered small iron rings into avian-length chains, fashioning the first steps of rider harnesses. Throughout, Mina felt a resonance stirring in her blood, in attunement to the twins' hearts. At times she swore she could sense Nyaxares dreaming, images of flight over crimson fields, of forging through sheets of magma as if water. One afternoon, thunderheads massed, rolling across the sea like basalt boulders. Lightning stitched sky to water, but the dragon seemed untroubled, even invigorated. The twins attempted their first flight, wings beating frantic yet uncertain. Mina and Eric guided them to leap from a low ledge into thermal updrafts. They glided for heartbeats, then tumbled, rolling upon the pebbled shore in a tangle of limbs and indignant squeals. Yet each attempt lengthened seconds, then minutes. That evening, as the storm's tail dwindled, Valyr gathered his children near the embers. "I have sent ravens," he announced, voice quiet but weighted. "One to Grand Maester Halrian, who still honors our house above Aurelian. One to the conclave, petitioning a private audience. And one to Stalois, a senator predisposed toward commerce." Mina watched a spark leap from log to the twin scales, sizzling harmlessly. "You risk news traveling swifter than our dragons could. I risk what delay will cost. We cannot shelter at the edge of the world while Valyria quakes behind us. Kalira Aurelian may be dead or captured in collapse. Or she may have escaped with eggs of her own and with accusations ready. Eric frowned. The conclave seldom seeks truth. They weigh advantage. Vaylor's smile was bittersweet. Then we must provide advantage, a new clutch shared under conclave oversight, an alliance of houses Marigore and Aurelian. Mina finished, distaste curling the word. Even them. He gestured at the twins. Think, a generation of dragons raised beneath peace charters, each egg monitored. If we guide that process, perhaps we avert civil war. Or doom. Mina stared into the fire. In its flicker she envisioned not peace but profiteers dividing hatchlings by lottery, forging armies, turning kernels into weapons surpassing dragons. Yet Vaylor's path offered at least a hope of controlling the awakening. That night dreams haunted her, spheres orbiting mindless, great serpents of flame gnawing fissures through the land, towers crumbling. She woke before dawn, the hush broken by soft wing beats. The twins cavorted beyond camp, chasing rising sparks from cooling lava flows. They leapt higher than yesterday, catching drafts, wings taut. Mina rose, stepping outside the circle of dragon guardians. The sky glowed violet, first hint of sunrise through storm haze. She breathed deep, letting the crisp salt air purify dread. Nyaxares wheeled overhead, chirping excitedly. In that call she heard not fear but exultation. She followed him up a sloping ridge. Wind lashed her cloak. From the crest she surveyed the sea. To the south, faint against sky, she spotted plumes of smoke still spiraling from the peninsula. But nearer, sails dotted the water, 5, perhaps 6 ships, silhouette of long prows. Pirates? Traders? Conclave envoys? She hurried to rouse Vaylor. By noon the ships anchored within a sheltered cove beneath sheer cliffs. They flew no common banners but a patchwork of signals, crimson serpent upon gold, black tower on fog gray, and an unfamiliar emblem of divergence. 2 dragons intertwined around a broken wheel. Scouts rode ashore, mounted cliff ladders built by Merrowmen. Vaylor greeted them swordless yet flanked by Relith and Nithraxis. The delegation's leader wore a cloak of sea lion fur and introduced himself, Mender Myrax, seneschal to Lord Aurelian. I come bearing treaty parchment and signet. He produced a scroll stamped with the sun serpent crest. Mina's pulse quickened. Kalira lived. Mender read, Lady Kalira Aurelian, by grace preserved, offers amnesty for House Marigore's unlicensed expedition into sovereign Caldera. Let our feud turn to fellowship. She claims 2 eggs saved from ruin, 1 hatched, 1 yet dormant, equal to your find. She proposes that we convene before the conclave of bloodmages within 10 days, present evidence of kernel womb discovery, and urge council to declare collective stewardship. Vaylor listened stone-faced. Only when Mender finished did he reply, we will meet. The cause transcends rivalry. Mender exhaled relief. Yet Vaylor added, but know this, should Aurelian move against us by steel or spell, Nithraxis will scour their vineyards from the map. That night the storm coils rang with horns as Marigore banners flew renewed and the small fleet sailed again, bearing tidings. Vaylor prepared his own flotilla, galleys commanded by lesser cousins, deck catapults refitted to fling glass bombs filled with wildfire. During final muster, Mina knelt before the hatchlings, now nearly half her height. Nyaxares draped a wing around her shoulders, Thalois nipped at her braids. She whispered to them of caution, telling stories of gentle giants who held mountains on their backs, of dragons who could choose to burn or choose to guard. They listened or seemed to, eyes reflecting twin braziers of possibility. The journey south unfolded in uneasy calm, dragons alternating between ship masts, riders scanning sky. Yet as they neared the mainland, the air tasted of clay and char. Closer still, they saw refugees along shoreline roads, wagons piled high, faces gray with ash. These were not enemy spies but common folk fleeing tremors, villages half-buried, wells poisoned by sulfur. Valyria was bleeding unnoticed by its glory-drunk senate. When at last the glass spires of the capital loomed, their surfaces mirrored flames raging beyond city walls. The harbor stank of tar. Cranes rebuilt docks collapsed by tidal surges. Still traders bargained by the quayside, as though commerce might quell magma. Vaylor requested immediate audience with the conclave. While they waited in a courtyard of fused ruby columns, Mina studied the hatchlings leashed beside ornate fountains. Nobles paced wide arcs around them, fear blinking beneath courtly smiles. Finally, black-robed attendants escorted them into the Hall of 11 Rings, where firelight shimmered within carved onyx hoops suspended overhead. At its center stood a dais shaped like a scaled egg, upon which 11 high seers rested, each blank-eyed, skin tattooed with fire glyphs. The conclave. Valyria Aurelian emerged from shadow, clad in scarlet silk. She bore a hatchling of her own, emerald with copper stripes, and together they faced the seers. A pale seeress spoke, voice thin as wind over glass. 2 houses bring tidings of awakening. Step forth, show proof. Valyria and Valyria released their dragons. Nyaxares and Thalois toddled forward, joined by Valyria's Virelios. Gasps rose among courtiers as flame flickered harmlessly around small claws. The dragons' twisted necks sniffed one another, eyes bright. "What say you?" the seeress asked. Valyria recounted the discovery, omitting quarrels, framing collapse as cataclysm triggered by unstable kernel rather than conflict. He spoke of countless eggs possibly lost, of tunnels containing spheres still intact, of the need for united stewardship lest future awakenings rend the realm. Valyria supported his plea, though her words flowed with political elegance, ensuring credit for Aurelian's equal bravery. Together they urged the conclave to establish a sanctum where eggs could be incubated under binding spells, knowledge collected, kernels studied, miners evacuated. Silence followed, heavy as stone. Then a different seer, a man whose facial brands resembled branching veins, spoke, voice rumbling like a distant quake. The stars told of a time when fire children would multiply, heralding dawn or doom. We believed that age centuries off. Yet prophecy is not clockwork, its hands rewind at whim. We grant provisional charter, houses Marigor and Aurelian shall form custodians of the scaled dawn. Under conclave supervision you will harvest no or open no sealed door without joint accord. Relief rippled outward, but Mina caught undercurrents, eyes gleaming among lesser nobles, scribes scurrying, alliances whispered. A storm of politics would follow. Each house lusting after new dragons. Still, for now, unity. Valyria knelt, as did Valyria, acknowledging charge. Weeks flowed. Deep within the capital, in vaults repurposed from abandoned salt granaries. They built the incubarium, its floors mosaic of obsidian feathers, its ceiling starred with prism glass that funneled sunlight onto arrays of braziers. Eggs nested in basalt cradles set at measured intervals. Alchemists brewed flame-dampening vapors to keep temperatures constant. Maesters recorded beats, lumens, shell translucence. Mina found herself chief among attendants, teaching novices to whisper the Noveli lullaby that calmed embryos. Thalois and Nyaxares grew quickly. Within a month they could glide across the vaulted hall, tails trailing sparks which attendants hurried to stamp out. Yet, under the surface of progress lurked signs of fracture. Some eggs responded poorly to songs, shells cracking too soon, hatchlings emerging malformed. Others refused to quicken at all, despite perfect heat. Mina observed patterns. Those placed near the hall's west quadrant, closest to an ancient water conduit, suffered most. She hypothesized trace toxins. Yet when she proposed relocating racks, the conclave's quartermaster refused, citing structural symmetry doctrines. Worse, whispers reached her of clandestine eggs smuggled from the site by minor lords. One night she discovered a guard with pockets lined by scales pried from a sickly hatchling. She reported him, the guard vanished into cells, but she suspected deeper rot. Eric's temperament darkened, unsettled by the city's decadence. He spent nights flying patrol above the 14 fires, measuring glow intensity. Each time he returned grim. Vent columns double weekly, he told Mina. A fault line widens along the third caldera. Magma seeps into riverbeds. Yet senators toast poet contests. Mina voiced concerns to Valyria, who listened weary-eyed. He too juggled politics. Merchants demanded permits to display fledgling dragons during festivals. The Senate debated tariffs on dragon feed. Valyria sought daily audiences, each meeting blending diplomacy with veiled rivalry. Then on the eve of the Festival of Embers, calamity struck within the incubarium. A newly hatched drake, violet and gold, writhed in agony. Its scales blistered, exhaling green flame that hissed when meeting air. Within seconds 3 nearby eggs combusted, setting straw and silk ablaze. Smoke choked attendants. Alarms sounded, water mages conjured torrents, but steam columns battered ceiling glass until panels shattered, raining shards. When Mina arrived, flames licked walls, attendants dragged unhatched clutches away. She spotted Nyaxares shielding Thalois in a corner, wings spread. Valyria leapt through smoke with chainnet, ensnaring the thrashing violet drake. He shouted for pitch salve on alchemical paste that smothered internal fire, but stores had been locked by quartermasters. In desperation, Mina commanded Nyaxares to project a precise jet of blue-white flame at the drake's maw, forcing heat outwards rather than inward where it boiled. The gambit worked enough that Valyr could douse the creature with smother sand. But damage was done. 9 eggs cracked, 3 hatchlings perished. Conclave seers convened emergency tribunal. They blamed impurity of environment, attacked management of custodians. Rival lords called for eggs to be redistributed among more houses to minimize risk. Kalira Aurelian visited Mina that night in the dragon nursery where Thalois slept. Kalira's face bore strain lines seldom seen in public. They will dismantle our charter, she warned, voice hushed. They see profit slipping. They fear doom and choose greed. Mina straightened, brushing soot off tunic. Then we speak truth. The sphere we found, others remain. If the conclave disbands order, dozens of houses will explore tunnels. One wrong blood offering, one kernel rupture, and Valyria ends. Kalira's gaze flicked to Thalois. Let us remove the eggs, hide them until power shifts. Mina hesitated. Liaison with Aurelian risked betrayal. Yet the greater risk lay in chaos. She considered a third path. We relocate every healthy egg to the storm coils. Away from politics. She folded arms. Marigor and Aurelian together. Custodians without conclave leash. Exile ourselves? Kalira asked. Preserve legacy. Raise dragons in remote rookery, teach them restraint. Meanwhile, we warn common folk, evacuate villages. We become shepherds, not senators. Kalira paced. Though famed for cunning, she had seldom chosen self-sacrifice. Yet her eyes lingered on Virelios, perched atop a brazier, crooning at Thalois. She exhaled slowly. If Marigor leads, Aurelian follows. The coup of compassion began in secret. Nightly they transferred clutches into silken crates lined with ash, escorted by loyal guards. Dragons old enough to fly bore some cargo slung beneath harnesses. Others loaded onto storm-cutter skiffs test-sailed by Myrax's sailors. Eric rejoiced at the plan, volunteering as air scout. Valyr, though wary, accepted necessity. He drafted a manifesto for Senate archives describing their exodus as sanctified pilgrimage to restore balance. He sealed it with both house crests. On the night chosen for departure, magma flares rose from the calderas, staining clouds crimson. As bells tolled for festival, the custodian's convoy slipped through harbor shadows. Nithraxis led overhead, a dark star blotting constellations. Behind her glided Relith with Mina, Serathrax with Eric, and Virelios with Kalira. Below, skiffs rode silent. They cleared the outer palisades when thunder cracked, not sky thunder, but ground tearing. A roar deeper than memory rolled across the sea. The 14 fires erupted in unison, pillars of flame-piercing clouds. A shockwave struck water, birthing tsunamis that raced outward. From Mina's vantage, the city vanished behind a curtain of incandescent ash. Towers folded, molten glass raining like meteors. Streets heaved. The doom of Valyria, long dreaded, had begun. Not sudden, but triggered by fractures their discovery had hastened or perhaps merely heralded. Wind howled as they sped north for the storm coils. Waves taller than walls chased them. Dragons flapped with savage urgency. Below, sail crews fought to keep vessels ahead of the surge. Some lagged, one skiff capsized, crates of eggs spilling into froth. Serathrax dove, talons snatching a crate before it disappeared, Eric screaming against wind. Nyaxares and Thalois clung to Mina's harness, their wings still too weak for extended flight. She whispered encouragement even as sweat chilled on her neck. Lightning forked across ash plume. After hours, the convoy sighted the jagged silhouette of storm coil cliffs. But the sea, whipped frenzy, threatened to smash hulls. Valyr signaled aerial landing only. Dragons would bear eggs the rest of the way, leaving sailors to find refuge where they might. Crate after crate rose into air, webbed under dragon bellies. Wyverns bigger than Serathrax but allied to Aurelian joined lift. In chaotic ballet they ferried precious cargo to plateaus high above tide's reach. Morning broke, the sun a blood coin through haze. The peninsula behind them exhaled endless smoke, a wound unstaunched. Yet upon the cliffs, dozens of eggs, some pulsing with life, gleamed in nascent light. Valyr stood at the edge, wind tugging his cloak, face lined with tears not entirely of grief. Valyria falls, he said, voice raspy. But these children endure. Mina gathered Nyaxares and Thalois, nestling them atop a basalt monolith that jutted like a lectern to the sky. They gazed at horizon, eyes reflecting ruin and dawn alike. In that stillness, Mina pledged silently these dragons would grow outside cycles of hubris. She, along with Eric and even Kalira, would guide them to something nobler. She did not know if continents drowning in ash could birth new hope, but she knew in marrow that fire, tempered by will, could forge futures. Behind her, attendants unpacked tools to carve dens into the cliff face. Relith roared, claiming the sky for all hatchlings. The wind carried embers northward, but also seeds of tomorrow. And so, upon the storm coils, a second dawn of dragons began, no longer Valyria's dominion, but something raw, uncharted, yet luminous with possibility. Ash settled upon the storm coils in soft gray snow, muffling wind and wave-alike until the high basalt ledges felt less a battlement and more a mausoleum for a world newly dead. Yet life stirred in that hush, life kindled in dragon hearts, in hastily pitched pavilions of black canvas, stitched with the sigils of two houses once sworn enemies. Lanterns guttered in the salt-rich gusts, throwing rippling amber over egg cradles arranged in concentric spirals across the plateau, each cradle a lavastone bowl lined with smolder sand and shimmering scales shed by the elder dragons to share their heat. Mina Marigore walked the spiral path at dawn's first red gleam, her boots crunching cinders, her cloak soaked with dew. Nyaxares and Thalois loped after her, tails flicking. The hatchlings had grown longer than greyhounds in mere weeks, wings broadening under daily glides across the updrafts. Their color had deepened. Nyaxares now wore a sheen of star violet that seemed to drink starlight, while Thalois' teal scales burned with streaks of wildfire gold. They kept near to Mina's heels, protective in instinct if not yet in might. She paused beside a cradle where an egg the hue of rusted copper pinged softly, shell flexing in tiny rhythms. She lowered an ear, listening for heartbeat, strong, steady, soon to hatch. With a practiced motion, she tilted the egg 3 fingers to the east, aligning it with the sun's newborn warmth. In these small adjustments lived the difference between health and deformity. A scatter of novices watched, wrapped in sealskin cloaks, trying to memorize her every movement. She gestured for one to step close, guiding his trembling hands to steady the cradle's rim. "Feel the pulse," she whispered. "Follow its beat. Dragons speak in rhythm before flame. Match them, and they'll trust you when shell breaks." The novice, a freckled youth from Aurelian's river estates, nodded, widening his eyes. Beyond the spiral's outer ring, builders quarried steps into the cliff face, shaping rused platforms grand enough for fledglings who would soon outgrow tents. Sparks flew from chisels biting basalt, woodwrights raised lattice walkways between pillars, mindful of canopy space for expansive wings. Everywhere rose the smell of industry mingling with brine and sulfur, the forging of a sanctuary carved from raw edge of the world. Valyr oversaw construction near the headland's brink, conferring with artisans over a star-shaped tower whose heart would hold the ether beacon, a brazier meant to burn bright as a lighthouse, guiding any returning scouts and warding pirates. He paused often, gaze drifting south where plumes still stained the horizon, a bruise that would not fade. Ships bearing refugees trickled past daily, some stopping for water and guidance before pressing onward to rumored safe ports in Sithorios or the Summer Isles. To each vessel Valyr sent supplies, along with warnings, avoid Valyria's shores. New fissures split the seafloor, the doom was not yet done cracking. Eric patrolled skies astride Sarathraks, scouting for sails with Black Serpent insignia, brigands emboldened by collapse. When he returned, face windburned, he carried tidings of raider flotillas preying upon merchant routes. Those reports fed restless councils held nightly beneath stretched tarpaulins. There, Mina, Valyr, Kalaira Aurelian, and captains of both houses argued over scant maps, plotting how best to defend not only their rookery but the fragile thalassocracy now teetering in power vacuum. Kalaira entered such meetings draped in scaled crimson that shimmered like a live ember, Virelios perched upon her shoulder despite already weighing half a stonemason. She brought intelligence of conclave survivors regrouping upon islands farther east, forging a schismatic order calling itself the Pirate Covenant. Rumor said these fanatics blamed custodians for unleashing doom and vowed to claim or destroy all remaining eggs to appease fire gods restless beneath the earth. At mention of Covenant, Mina felt chill coil her spine. "They will sail here," she predicted. "They will come cloaked as pilgrims and strike at night. We must fortify before they sniff our flame." Valyr agreed, yet resources waned, stone scarce, steel scarcer, and smiths threatened by exhaustion. So Mina proposed tapping the hidden armory of the peninsula's abandoned sky foundries, dormant since dragon saddles were mass-produced for Valyria's expansion campaigns. Kalaira insisted such workshops were either buried or crawling with toxins, but Eric volunteered a reconnaissance flight. Nyaxares and Thalois chirped, eager though too young, they would remain. 3 days later, Eric returned with 2 half-collapsed wagons crammed with tempered scale steel plates, forged before the doom and still bearing the shimmer of cold fold enchantments. With these, artisans reinforced the plateau's perimeter into a ring of slanted palisades that could deflect both arrow and alchemical shell. Catapults salvaged from abandoned Legion staging grounds were hauled by Nithraxis herself, claws gripping timbers as though they weighed nothing. Soon dragonbone ballistae jutted from cliff embrasures, paired with racks of obsidian-tipped bolts dipped in basilisk poison. Yet Mina knew wood and iron meant little without coordination. She convened every able hand at dusk, the sky-flushed apricot. Hatchlings skittered at her feet, spitting sparks in mimicry of older dragons lighting torches. Mina climbed a stone dais once part of a shattered lighthouse, voice carrying through salty air. "We stand atop a knife," she told them. "The sea gnaws one flank, doom smolders on the other. Dragons are reborn in our care, but dragons alone will not save us. Discipline will. We train as legion and clutch alike. Every builder must learn bowstring. Every scribe must memorize evacuation paths. Dragons will pair with crews who know their moods by scent. When Covenant raiders come, we will not scatter like glass. We will rise on wings of flame and meet them as one." Her speech sparked cheers raw with fear-edged courage. Work resumed under starglow, a rhythm of hammers, wing beats, and distant thunder from fissured skies. Nyaxares and Thalois practiced takeoffs from higher and higher ledges, muscles knitting strong across shoulders. They soared in widening circles before gliding back to Mina, demanding scraps of charred goat which they devoured in snapping gulps. But hatchlings were not the rookery's only burgeoning lives. Within deep caverns beneath the plateau, sealed by runic gates carved by seers, lay 38 unhatched eggs, each pulsing. Mina visited nightly, lantern-hooded, to walk between cradles scented of myrrh and glowing ember. She hummed Novelli, feeling vibrations crawl up her calves, resonating along marrow. Sometimes she glimpsed images conjured in flickers behind her eyes. Swathes of sky above unknown continents, gleaming spires rising from jungles, fleets of dragons swirling in spirals of ritual flight. She did not understand if these were memories of ancestors or dreams of unborn minds projecting forward. On the 28th night, the copper egg hatched. Mina, Kalira, Eric, and Valyr gathered, breath held. As a crack zipped across shell, then another, until fragments toppled outward, revealing a drake with scales reminiscent of burnished bronze, eyes molten amber. It shrieked a note so pure and high that the other eggs quivered in sympathy. Nyaxares answered with a basso call, Thalois weaving a harmony between them. The 3 hatchlings touched snouts, entwining necks like vines of living metal. Valyr named the new one Pyrith, Sparkwrought Promise. With 3 drakelings bonded under one roof, the plateau pulsed with energy unbound. Storms seemed to skirt their cliffs, as though clouds sensed some nascent sovereignty. Even refugees passing by spoke of feeling lighter in heart near the rookery, despite smoke scars upon horizon. Mina treasured such tales, but vigilance never waned. Scouts reported Covenant ships sighted in clusters, testing currents 2 days' sail south. Valyr ordered readiness. Dragons saddled, crews armed, catapults loaded. Yet he withheld first strike, fearing that overt aggression might push neutral powers to side with Covenant. Instead, he dispatched envoys riding wyverns to Summer Isles and to Volantis, seeking alliances. Tension stretched taut across camp like the hawser of a war galley. Weeks churned without attack, seeds of complacency creeping. And so calamity came not from south but from within, disease. It began with a hatchling named Myrus, one from Kalira's clutch. Scales developed dull patches. Its appetite waned. Maesters diagnosed scale rot, a fungal blight common in humid pits, yet rare in high eyrie. They applied lime salve, but the fungus spread, pitting skin, leaking foul ichor. Soon another hatchling coughed embers laced with blood. Panic whipped through caretakers. Mina quarantined the infirm in a wind-scoured cavern near Sea Spray, posted guards to sterilize every tool by flame. She forbade novices from stroking dragon hides without gauntlets. Still the rot advanced. 3 hatchlings died within 9 days. 2 eggs ceased pulsing, hearts silent before shell broke. Kalira raged at healers, tears scorching cheek while Virilios keened from vantage rocks. Valyr haunted the infirmary, palms scarred from alchemical burns as he mixed new salves by hand. At crisis's peak, Nyaxares fell ill, throat membranes reddening, eyes crusting. Valyria refused to leave his side, breathing chilled vapor upon fevered nape. Mina did not sleep. She sang the Noveli until voice cracked blood. She begged ancient spirits, whichever still listened beyond doom-dark skies, to spare the Drake who had first trusted her. Salvation arrived in unexpected guise. Pyrith, the youngest, approached Nyaxares' palate, flicking tongue as if tasting sickness. Pyrith's scales shimmered, absorbing lantern glow. A distinctive musk rolled off him, sharp, resinous. He exhaled a plume not of flame but deep golden smoke carrying scented oils like citrus and cedar. Where smoke touched Nyaxares' lesions, the rot hissed and receded. Pyrith repeated, breathing in steady pulses, until Nyaxares' breathing eased. Crusts flaked away, revealing new healthy scale beneath. Healers collected residue from Pyrith's nostrils, isolating volatile oils produced by a gland only beginning to develop in copper scale breeds. The oils possessed antifungal properties when aerosolized by dragon heat. Armed with this discovery, they crafted tinctures mixed into braziers around infirmary. Within days, scale rot crumbled. 15 hatchlings healed, though 3 lost to blight left scars in every heart. Kalira visited Pyrith, kneeling to stroke his neck, humbled by miracle from rival bloodline. Mina watched, understanding deepened. Dragons carried not only ruin but cure, if guided. When health returned, focus snapped back to looming Covenant threat. Scouts finally confirmed. A fleet of 10 war dramans, hulls sheathed in black iron, oars manned by thrall crews chained ankle to board. Their sails bore the Pyra Covenant's tri-flame sigil, red, orange, white interwoven round a black void. Atop figureheads stood effigies of burning eggs. The fleet advanced under dark of moon, using currents to mask wake. But Eric, patrolling high, spied faint torch glints upon oarlocks. He dove to camp, rousing watchfires. Horns bellowed, banners unfurled. Dragons answered cries, wings rustling like thunder in cavernous lungs. Valor marshaled defense, elder dragons would engage ships, fledglings remained to guard eggs. Ballista crews manned cliff lines, potcasters readied glass orbs brimming with wildfire. Storm coils quaked beneath rally. Mina saddled Relith, Nyaxares and Valyria refused to stay, though smaller, they insisted, chirps fierce. Against her fear, she outfitted them with scale-light harnesses tethered by braided mythvine rope to Relith's flanks, so they could glide in his slipstream yet be reined if chaos overtook. Pyrith remained roost-side, breath oils vaporizing through vents to disinfect cradle halls, an unseen bulwark. Night's cloak parted to reveal ghost light of fractured moon. Over open sea the Covenant dramans rode in phalanx, prows knifing foam. Plumes of red flame erupted from brazier catapults on their forecastles, alchemical fire arcs roaring toward cliffs. But dragons fell upon them first. Nithraxis descended in a scything dive, jaws unveiling torrents of blue-white plasma that melted oak and iron alike. A ship's mast exploded, sending sailcloth aflame across deck. Screams rose like gulls. Sarathrax, copper scales glinting, followed with streak of emerald fire, igniting tar-caulking. Within breaths, 2 warships burned funeral bright. Ballistae thundered from cliffs, obsidian bolts punching holes through hulls, but Covenant mages retaliated. Lightning lanced sky, summoned by bone totems, striking Nithraxis' wing membrane. She faltered, roared defiance, regained altitude as Mina and Relith swooped low to sow wildfire bombs. Green conflagration rolled across middle deck of flagship, but shield bearers hurled chalky orbs that burst into mist snuffing part of flame. Nyaxares, tethered, spat a thin jet scorching Covenant archers manning scorpions. Valyria dove at his side, smaller flames yet precise, slicing rigging so sails tangled. But a chant rose, Covenant pyromancers weaving glyphs midair. Spheres of condensed fire, unnatural dense orange, spun toward hatchlings. Relith snapped Y. NGS, banking hard, still one sphere grazed rope, severing tether. Nyaxares tumbled free, spiraling above deck where broken mast jutted like spear. Mina's blood froze. She commanded Relith into steep descent, yet distance yawed. Nyaxares righted moments before impact, but shockwave of heat dazed him, membranes singed. He landed upon charred railing, claws skittering. Covenant soldiers converged, nets weighted with leads swirling overhead. Valyria shrieked from above, but could not break formation alone. Mina leapt from saddle 90 feet above sea, trusting instinct, hers and Relith's. The dragon rolled mid-air, tail snapping to create momentary platform. Her boots hit the scaly whiplash, launching her toward deck. She crashed among coiled rope, blade drawn. Soldiers hesitated at sudden night of smoke and pallor. She cut through first net, slashed second, shouting in Old Valyrian to rouse Nyaxares. Draudry, owner, fly, burn. Nyaxares' eyes blazed, he exhaled. Molten cone engulfed bow ranks. Planks sizzled. Thalois bullied onto deck, wings buffeting foes into sea. Mina seized a fallen shield, deflected arrow cluster. As dragons took air, she sprinted for forecastle rail, whistling. Relith swooped, she jumped, claws closed about harness, wrenching her skyward while flagship behind erupted, powder store touched by stray ember. Above, fleet lay broken, 6 ships ablaze, 2 sinking, 2 limping with shattered oars. Yet victory cost dear, Nithraxis wing membrane torn, Kalira's Virelios skewered by ballista bolt but alive, and half a dozen Merigore riders tumbled into black waves. At dawn, smoke drifted across placid sea strewn with wreckage. Search barges rescued surviving thralls, they spoke of covenant doctrine, the doom was cleansing fire, Egg's heresy of pride, all who harbored dragons must burn. Interrogation of a captured pyromancer revealed worse. Covenant High Flamefather sought the remaining kernels, believing detonating them would bring second sun and purge unworthy. Valyr convened emergency conclave atop newly raised Star Tower. There, soot-streaked riders and healers argued futures. Some urged total war upon Covenant before next fleet sailed. Others warned that conclave remnants would join raiders, while distant free cities might exploit chaos. Meanwhile, storm coils now brimmed with orphans of ash seeking refuge. Mouths to feed, hearts to shelter. Mina stood, fatigue drowning limbs yet fire lucid in eyes. We cannot wall ourselves behind basalt and hope tide never returns. Nor can we raise world into obedience. Dragons were birthed not for bondage but balance. We must become wanderers, carry hatchlings inland, seed colonies on high ranges where doomquake cannot reach, where covenant hunt cannot sail. Teach villages to honor flame as warmth, not weapon. We split clutch. Half remain with Valyr to hold fortress, half with me to found first skywards. Then should Covenant strike again, we are not single-necked to lop but many beating wings across horizon. Silence weighed heavy until Kalira placed hand upon Mina's gauntlet. Aurelian will accompany. Virelios yearns for open skies. Eric followed, grinning through bandages, and Sarathrax's scout. Go north to the Bones Mountains, legends say peaks pierce even summer clouds. Valyr's expression blended pride and sorrow. Divide then. See destiny. He clasped Mina to breastplate. But carry with you memory of home should we never meet again. Preparation spanned fortnight. Egg cradles built into saddle nacelles lined with shock silk. NAV charts etched onto dragon hide scrolls using frost ink. Pyrith, now stocky and stout, designated guardian of younger drakes during flight. Nyaxares and Thalois, fully recovered, served as vanguards flanking Relith. Departure dawn unveiled gentle sea hush. Refugees assembled, singing low hymn taught by Mina, a weave of Valyrian and Roiner, invoking water and flame in harmony. Dragons answered, thrumming chests. As convoy lifted, plateau shrank beneath. Valyr watched until specks vanished into climbing sky. He turned then to fortify, a lone sentinel upon the brink. Mina's flight north traced coast where char-laced forests met cliffs. Below, survivors waved, hope glinting. They crossed straits, soared above clouds so thick they resembled broken marble plains. Dragons rode thermals, egg sacs warmed by underbelly heat. On 7th day they sighted the bones, jagblade range clawing heavens. Valleys between fangs glittered with alpine rivers untainted by ash. Here they descended onto sunlit meadow ringed by white colossi. Wind carried only mountain thyme and distant goat bells. It felt like world reborn. They scouted cave systems, limestone halls lit by shafts where sun set crystalline dust adrift. In central cavern a subterranean lake mirrored stalactites like fanged stars. Mina deemed it perfect, water, stone warmth, isolation. While builders cleared roost ledges, Mina explored beyond waterfall a cavern's rear. To her astonishment, narrow tunnel angled upward into shattered dome of quartz where sunbeams danced rainbows across natural dais. At dais center protruded mineral pillar dotted with geodes. One geode cracked open revealed spiral glyph identical to those on kernel door. Heart drumming, Mina touched glyph. Stone vibrated, a hum low but potent. Yet no doom stirred, rather melody echoed faint as if mountains sang memory of Earth's heart. She realized kernels might seed not only destruction but life, fusing ley lines of the realm. Perhaps here, without Seer's bleeding doors with sacrifice, their resonance nurtured the land. She vowed to study, not exploit. Months passed. Skyward's colony thrived, terraced gardens irrigated by meltwater, huts roofed by woven reed panels. Hatchlings racing along ridge trails, practicing wing beats in mountain updrafts. Nyaxares and Thalois entered adolescent growth spurts, wingspan doubling. They hunted aurochs among high pastures, returning with carcasses feeding settlers. Pyrith mastered his healing smoke, now bottled by alchemists to treat skin ailments. Children born of evacuees learned dragon riding etiquette before they spoke full sentences, tiny hands reaching to stroke scale under watchful eyes. Mina taught them songs, some sweet, some cautionary, embedding respect for fire and balance. Yet shadows never ceased creeping. Scouts brought word that Covenant regrouped inland, forging alliances with exiled magisters from Goyandro, promising them dominion over river trade once dragons eradicated. Skirmishes erupted along shoreline villages as Covenant sabotage teams burned granaries, hoping to starve rookery outposts. Mina responded by sending pairs of young riders accompanied by at least one elder drake. On diplomatic circuits, they offered protective flyovers in exchange for grain tithe, forging bonds. Villages welcomed flame wardens who chased off brigands, and soon a loose federation formed, the Skyclad League, pledging mutual aid. Still, Mina's dreams churned. Each night she stood inside glass corridors watching visions of ancients stroking eggs beneath orbiting shards. Their faces clearer now, tattoos across cheeks depicting twin serpents, eyes glinting with resolve to create guardians, not conquerors. They pressed hands to Mina's shoulders as if passing mantle across time. One dawn, she woke to echo of distant quake. Far south, yet mountain trembled. Smoke streaked sky again. Doom convulsed, still hungry. Council convened in mountain dais. Kalira unfurled map noting seismic readings from watchers, revealing pattern. Rifts moving north along fault beneath sea. Eventually they would intersect the bones. Time for complacency dwindled. Mina proposed bold gambit. Find untapped kernel near mountains if vibrations signaled one dormant, and devise ritual to stabilize rather than shatter, channel energy through network events to relieve pressure gradually. Some called Plan Madness, others saw Last Hope. To pursue, they needed knowledge lost with conclave libraries. Eric suggested raiding ruins of Dragon Road's archives rumored hidden beneath shattered peninsula spur now accessible at low tide. Team of writers volunteered, among them Mina. Before departure, she visited Egg Chamber where latest clutch 5 new hatchlings slept. She pressed forehead to Nyaxares. I leave dawn after next. Protect them. Nyaxares nudged her chin, crooning soft trill. At dawn, expedition soared south, skimming fog-bound sea etched by lava glow. What remained of Valyria loomed a skeletal silhouette of fused towers crucified against scarlet sky. Shoreline crumbled, yet entrance to archive tunnels persisted, half submerged. Riders dismounted onto slick obsidian flats. Sulfur stung nostrils. They wove through toppled sphinxes, reaching doors sealed by petrified vines of glass. Eric applied dragonfire. Stone melted to slag. Passage yawned. Inside, corridors twisted labyrinth-wise, spattered with shards of scroll tubes burst by heat centuries prior. Yet some alcoves remained intact behind copper shutters. They prized them open, discovering clay tablets etched in cuneiform older than Empire. Among glyphs they deciphered schematics for ether conducts, systems of quartz filaments drilled deep, designed to siphon kernel energy upward into controlled sky auroras that fertilized farmland. Implementation, text warned, required harmonic crystals and bloodline attuned to dragons. Mina's heart raced. Dais geode pillar in mountain matched description of harmonics lens. Perhaps miners here once planned to tether a kernel but never completed. Then tremor rocked rubble. Dust clouds billowed. Eric cursed. Earth shifted. Molten roar surged beyond walls as fissure split archive, magma vein breaching corridors. Riders fled, clutching satchels stuffed with tablets. They burst outside as geyser of flame spewed behind, archive drowning in Ceres torrent. Airship of sorts, sailwing barge, waited anchored offshore, Covenant pennants whipping. Raiders shouted, drawing bows. Dragons lifted riders beyond shafts of black-fletched arrows which hissed into surf. Relith strafed barge with cone of flame, vessel broke in half. Flight home proved grueling as storms battered wings. But tablets remained safe. Scholars pored over runes translating under Pyritha's warm glow. They confirmed Deus Pillar indeed part of conduction lattice. If harmonics calibrated using draconic heartbeats, kernel energy could vent along safe channels, preventing explosive build but keeping Lay alive. Yet kernel location uncertain. Skyward's ranger recalled vertical shaft in tunnels below plateau where Mina once peered into glowing chamber. Perhaps similar existed here. Expedition back to storm coils necessary, but Covenant foothold lingered near. Mina resolved she and Valyria would lead Vanguard south again, this time not to scavenge but to claim Colonel as stewardship. They summoned volunteer squad of veteran riders, leaving Eric guardianship of Rookery. Before departure, mountain folk convened ceremony, children wove garlands of blue fire flowers, hatchlings roared miniature choruses. Mina addressed assembly, we ride to still the heart of fire. If we fall, remember we chose creation over conquest. Raise dragons gentle. Guard earth as it guards you. She pressed palms to Deus Pillar, quake of deep chord thrummed as though mountain recognized vow. The flight south cut through gales. They reached storm coils under moonless sky to find plateau transformed, Valyria's star tower now surrounded by shanty houses sheltering hundreds, beacon blazed bright as comet. But Valyria limped toward landing field, arms slung, his face ash smeared. Covenant struck 4 nights past, he rasped while hugging Mina. We repelled but lost outer defenses. They know of Colonel Shaft, seek to detonate. No time wasted, Mina, Valyria, Valyria raced to underground shaft. Covenant sappers had breached gate but got no farther. Nithraxis's fire melted tunnel mouth. Yet within chamber, Colonel pulsed erratically, veins strobing from orange to searing white. Heat rose unbearable. Seers predicted breach in days. Using tablets as guide, Mina's teams erected quartz pylons around shaft mouth, each tuned by dragon hum. Nyaxares, Valyria, and Pyrith occupied equidistant perches, exhaling timed bursts measured by waterdrip metronomes. As dragons sang, crystals resonated, weaving humming lattice that reached into fissure. Light arced upward in translucent ribbons, venting energy into night where it blossomed as aurora, green undulating veil stretching horizon to horizon. Heat within chamber dropped, Colonel veins stabilized amber. Camp erupted in cheers. Yet distant war horns cut celebration, Covenant fleet massed anew, this time 20 ships reinforced by captured Wyvern riders. Final confrontation loomed. Valyria addressed assembly, tonight we hold lines while conduit strengthens. If they shatter pylons before harmonics anchor, Colonel will reignite. Stark silence followed. Every soul understood stakes. Dragons soared once more into warlit sky. Sea churned under or lines. Wyverns dived streaking acid bile. Skyward's defenders met them in wheeling spiral, Nyaxares and Valyria fought as tandem, tails interlocking mid-rolls to confuse attackers. Pyrith unleashed healing smoke against caustic clouds, neutralizing acid midair. On flagship, Covenant Flame Father, clothed in robes of living fire, raised staff topped with obsidian egg effigy. He chanted, summoning column of white flame that pierced cloud, slicing toward plateau. Mina, seeing beam in gorge, shouted for Valyria. Together they angled dragons into beam's path, intercepting with crossing torrents of their own fire, forming crucible where forces collided. Heat scorched scale, but they held. Below, Valyria led strike team aboard fast skiff disguised as wreckage, slipped through chaos, boarded flagship base, and confronted Flamefather on charred deck beneath blazing staff. Duel commenced, steel versus sorcery. Valyria's blade shattered staff crystal, but flame surged, swallowing both. From sky, Mina watched bright bloom where father and foe vanished. Desire for vengeance roared, but conduit demanded guardians. She soared back to plateau, rallying battered defenders. Nithraxis, grieving roar echoing waves, dove kamikaze into Covenant command ship, detonating powder hold that consumed half fleet. Remaining vessels scattered, morale broken. Dawn found sea littered with debris. Covenant threat shattered for time being. Yet Valyria gone, Nithraxis gone. A sacrifice that ensured survival. Conduit now glowed steady jade, energy bleeding tranquil into sky. Earthquake tremors eased, air tasted clean. Valyria knelt beside Mina on cliff where beacon burned. Tears streaked soot, dragons curled around them in silent vigil. Mina whispered vow into muttering wind. We will guard flame, but never chain it. We will teach children of smoke and seed, of balance not dominion. Years rolled. Rookery matured into network of skywards across breadth of continent. Farmers tilled soil enriched by auroral rains, traders sailed under protection of dragon flights, covenant remnants faded to myth of fanatics scorched by their own zeal. Dragons multiplied, yet none raised cities. Their riders taught them to tend forest fires, to herd storm clouds over drought fields, to ferry healers between plagued towns. From dais of bone mountains, Mina watched evening sky ablaze with ribbons of aqua aurora, living monument to conduits still beating heart. Beside her, Nyaxares unfurled wings spanning barn roofs, Thalois perched tall as watchtower, Pyrrhus curled lazy yet watchful. Younger dragons trained in valley below, their roars echoing as chorus of rising era. She spoke to memory of Valor carried on gale, Father, the doom broke us, but through doom we forged this tomorrow. May embers of Valyria guide stars of new sky. And wind answered with hush of ash long settled into fertile loam, where seeds of future awaited dawn's gentle blaze. Night rose over the bone mountains like a slow-turning tide of ink, swallowing each ridge in velvet black until only the highest fawn pinnacles glittered with starlight. In the valley far below those jagged crowns, the rookery city of sky dawn shimmered with ember specks, leaping fires from forged districts, honey-gold lanterns along terraces, and the soft blue-green phospha of auroral conduits coursing through crystal aqueducts. From a distance, the settlement looked less a place of stone and timber than a constellated nebula floating weightless amid the frost-kissed pines. Mina Marigore stood on a balcony high in Starhaven Tower, the wind tugging silvery threads through her braids, eyes half-closed in contemplation. She was older now, lines like fine etchings beside her violet gaze, shoulders layered with a mantle woven from shed dragon scales the color of fading dusk. A time had sharpened more than worn, every line held stories and every scar glimmered with purpose. Beneath the mantle she wore simple riding leathers, stitched for flexibility rather than ceremony. A thin gold circlet crowned her brow, its single opal burned with the same inner fire that lit Nyaxares' heart. Far above, the dragon himself traced silent arcs across the upper vault of night. His wings, grown to span half a village green, owed their darkness not to black alone but to an iridescent bloom of starflecks and violet sheen. When he banked, his underside flashed violet silver like distant storm clouds lit by lightning. Beside him flew Thalois, sleeker, swifter, scales as blue as sun-touched ocean deepened by streaks of molten gold. They soared in lazy spirals, guardians and companions both, their low roars rumbling through the valley like muted thunder. Below the balcony, a slow swell of sound drifted up from Skydawn's amphitheater, war drums. Tonight marked the Festival of Ember Peace, an annual commemoration of the first conduit's stabilization. The valley's peoples gathered beneath towering braziers, celebrating the balance between dragonkind and mortal realm. Smoke rose, sweet with cedar and mountain sage, curling like prayer toward the star-speckled dome. Normally Mina would have joined the circle dances, offered lullaby songs to the youngest hatchlings, thrown curses toward the doom's memory and blessed fire toward dawn. But tonight she could not rest. An omen haunted her. A tremor sharp enough to rattle cups at midday, followed by faint whirls of magenta in the auroral ribbons, an anomaly the scholars could not explain. She had felt it in her bones, like a missing heartbeat suddenly remembered. A soft footfall sounded behind her. Turning, she found Eric leaning against the door frame, as rugged as ever, though streaks of winter silver wove through his copper-brown hair. He wore a Sky Scout's cloak, embroidered with the twin dragon sigils of Marigore and Aurelian now fused into a single glyph, two serpents forming an infinity loop around a rising sun. "I thought you'd still be here," he said, voice a gravelly warmth. Celebrations begun. The children insisted on lighting the skyfold lanterns themselves. Nearly set a bard on fire. Mina returned a faint smile. They'll learn. Better mistakes in peace than war. Eric approached the balustrade, gaze lingering on the star wind above. Nyaxares and Thalois look restless. As do you. She lowered her voice. You felt the tremor? His nod was curt. Sarathrax bucked mid-flight. He never does that unless something below speaks too loud. And the aurora shifting to magenta, he shook his head. I've seen that color only once, on the day the second kernel vented through the storm coils. Mina exhaled slowly. I fear another sphere-s. Tears. Perhaps beneath the Hinterstep range, or farther east under the Sea of Ghosts. The currents in the ley have changed. Eric's jaw tightened. We should convene the High Wing. If a kernel awakens, we must erect new conduits before any fissures break ground. And before anyone else tries to bleed it. Mina's thoughts flashed to dusty rumors, wandering pyromancers preaching that fire gods still demanded sacrifice, tales of fractured conclave acolytes who had escaped their defeat and now roamed shadow markets hungry for relics. Worried whispers that the Pyra Covenant might be breeding Wyvern Hydra hybrids in hidden calderas. Years of relative calm did not equate to peace. Embers lingered, needing only wind. "I'll call the council at dawn," she promised. But there's more. A messenger dove arrived at dusk from Seaguard Outpost. The Seal Watchers sighted sails on the northern horizon, black hulls edged in bronze, flying no banner we know. 10, maybe 15 ships. None large enough for Legion troop drops, but heavy prows reinforced for ice. I suspect exploration, not invasion, yet they're heading shifts daily. Searching, perhaps? Eric rubbed frostbitten fingers together. If they're hunters following leak of auroral anomalies, their presence might foreshadow chaos. Foreign powers chasing kernels could break everything we've built. Mina touched the circlet. Exactly. That's why I'll ride tonight. Tonight? Eric frowned. We need rest before decisions. The valley can spare me for a few hours. Nyaxares can track currents in the ley better than any instrument. His heart will know. She drew on gloves lined with wyvern fur. I'll fly east to the cracked mirror glacier. If magenta lines pool there, we'll know the awakening locus. Eric hesitated, then nodded. I'll alert the watch. And stir Pyrith from his belly fire arbor. If anomaly spreads, we'll need his smoke to calm hatchlings. Mina squeezed his shoulder. Thank you, brother. She whistled short, sharp. Above, Nyaxares folded wings and dove, spiraling down like a fallen star. Thalois followed. Both banked to hover at balcony level, claws sending sparks off stone as they landed. Mina vaulted onto Nyaxares' saddle, an elegant contraption of braided mute vine leather, quick-release buckles, and lacings threaded through carved dragobone hoops. A cold breeze whipped her cloak as she secured the harness. Thalois nudged her knee, crooning. Mina brushed her snout. Guard the hatchery, she told Thalois. No flames beyond the outer ring tonight. The blue-gold drake dipped her head in solemn promise. Eric stepped back as Nyaxares crouched and launched upward in one seamless surge. Wind howled around tower spires, ember sparks rose from festival pyres, music drifted faintly until altitude swallowed it. They climbed past the ridge crowns into the chill stratosphere where breath crystallized and stars loomed enormous as moonlit lanterns. Nyaxares' body radiated warmth through scale and saddle. Mina could feel heartbeats thrumming like distant war drums. She whispered into his neck ridge, "Seek the tremor," and loosened reins. He angled eastward, wings catching the jet streams. The world blurred below, pine forests phased into shadowed ravines, then into crumbled basalt plateaus, still scarred by ancient magma channels. Hours passed like heartbeats as they arrowed across the night. At times Nyaxares tipped a wing to let Mina glimpse the aurora's underside, curling ribbons of green, turquoise, and faint lavender. But no magenta yet. Approaching pre-dawn, the cracked mirror glacier unfurled beneath, a plateau of ice etched by fissures that mirrored starlight in fractal webs. From above it looked like a shattered jewel. Nyaxares circled, sniffing sharp vapor rising through cracks. Frost crystals glittered on his muzzle. Mina scanned the glacial surface, still no unusual color in the aurora. But her bones prickled. Something pulled at the ley like a slow, inexorable tide. Nyaxares landed in a valley between two ice peaks, talons crunching compact snow. Steam spiraled from his nostrils, melting trenches at his feet. Mina dismounted, pulling a hood over her head, breath clouding. She knelt, pressing palm against the ice. Temperature numbed her skin instantly, yet beneath that she felt a hum, faint but distinct, an echo to the tremor earlier. She closed eyes, tuning senses. In the stillness she heard drums, not those of festival, but deep seismic pulses, each separated by countless heartbeats. A slow countdown. She rose, concern furrowing brow. Not here, she murmured. Deeper, further east. Nyaxares shifted. A low growl rumbled. Mina turned and saw the magenta glow. It seeped like veins beneath the glacier, visible through fractures in the ice, threads of luminous violet rose radiating outward in branch-like filigree. As they watched, one branch brightened, pulsing. Another kernel, she whispered. A boom cracked the silence, ice splitting along one fissure, widening into a jagged crevasse. Heat gusted upward. Nyaxares recoiled, wings flaring. The glacier lurched, distant peaks echoed the rip. Mina regained saddle swiftly. Up, she commanded. Nyaxares kicked off, ice tumbling underfoot. They climbed into thinning air. Beneath, the magenta web blossomed, coloring half the glacier neon rose. Then, 5 leagues eastward, a flare of blinding white-pink erupted, a column of light spearing sky like a newborn star. It lasted seconds but painted the aurora in violent magenta streaks. The sphere below had awoken. A wave of wind punched Nyaxares. He held steady. Mina caught her breath. If that energy vented uncontrolled, the glacier would shatter, seas rise, perhaps ignite methane pockets slumbering under the ice. They had weeks at most before disaster radiated. She guided Nyaxares west toward home. Yet a flicker on horizon stalled her, silhouettes. Dozens of winged shapes, too small for dragons, too large for seabirds, hovering near the glacier. Wyverns? No, wingstrokes differed, more mechanical. She strained eyes. Metal glints. Airships, small scout craft tethered to alchemical balloons propelled by rotor fins. The unknown fleet had arrived. Nyaxares rumbled. He sensed the intruder's intentions, harvest, exploit, or worse. Mina debated confronting them, but numbers uncertain. She instead banked into cloud cover, evading detection. They flew day and night, halting once for water at a mountain tarn. By midday next, Skydon's peaks emerged. She glimpsed Thaloi circling high, scanning horizon. On approach, warning horns blared, watchers recognized Nyaxares and opened roost gates. Mina arrived to find the high wing assembled already. Kalira Aurelian, regal despite a fresh scar across her cheek earned while taming a tempest drake, Pyritha's bonded rider Lyram Alfear, master alchemist. Chief seer Ilithai Gemtung, blind yet able to read auroral patterns by taste, and newly appointed commander Tarvian Carlus, former refugee child turned first non-noble knight of dragons. They stood around a quartz-inlaid map on dais floor, lines of green light tracing conduits, red lines marking known fault corridors. Eric met Mina at entrance. "We felt the flare," he said without preamble. Pyritha's lungs rattled, hatchery infants shrieked. "And look!" He indicated azure flames flickering in torches lining corridor, their color deepened, tinted with violet rose. Inside, council awaited her report. Mina relayed everything: magenta fractures, erupting column, airship silhouettes. Silence spread like frost. Finally Kalira spoke, voice edged with iron. "We must act faster than with the storm coils. If those ships harness kernel power, they could wield devastation equal to doom." Ilithai tasting the air said, "When energy leaps unsung, songs of earth unrest follow." Pulse suggests 12 days before crust shift. Tarvian drew dagger, tracing route east beyond map's edge. The glacier sits near the borderlands of Carcassa, territory claimed by northern merchant princes. They field wind sails and iron machines. Could be their fleet. Lyram frowned. Carcassans dabble in voltaic crystals. If they coax kernel to flood those arrays, they'll birth weapons unheard of. Mina's mind raced. We'll mount 2 operations. First, a blockade of the awakening site, dragons and skycutters. We deter any extraction attempts. Second, we erect an emergency conduit replicating our bone pattern but tuned to polar conditions. And third, she turned to Ilithai. We craft a pacification hymn, a resonance only dragons can carry, to soothe kernel flux until lattice complete. The seer inclined head. "I shall weave the notes in Silver Night." Plans formed rapidly. Pyrith would accompany Mina as healer. Eric led strike riders to scout foreign fleet. Kalira commanded logistic chain, marshalling teams to harvest quartz spires from mirror caverns for conduit pylons. Tarvian drilled bulwark squadrons to guard Skydon in case of diversionary raids. Within hours, smithies roared forging anchor rods, seamstresses sewed insulated harness sacks, scribes transcribed Ilithai's embryonic hymn onto flame-proof vellum. The valley hummed with purposeful dread. That evening, Mina walked the hatchery one last time. Starlight through skylights shimmered upon eggs swaddled in nest octagons. She paused before a charcoal gray shell etched by natural gold whorls. Gentle knocking within answered her hand's warmth. A new life queued behind shell awaiting better world. She whispered, "We'll keep flame gentle for you," and left. At midnight, expedition launched. 30 dragons formed a V-wing over high peaks, smaller wyverns flanking as couriers. Nyaxares led, torchlight strapped to chest illuminating wind currents. Pyrith flew slightly behind. His brassy scales caught moonlight. Flying east, Mina marveled at swirl of magenta in aurora stretching now across half the sky. Energy bleed accelerating. She tapped Nyaxares' neck, faster. They soared until dawn's blood-orange rim brightened horizon, revealing jagged ice plains. Thin smoke pillars twined skyward, campfires of the foreign fleet at Glacier's western approach. Eric's scouts peeled off to reconnoiter. Mina signaled main wing to hold altitude above clouds. Minutes later, Eric's voice crackled through breathing shell relayed by resonant stone attached to saddle. Estimate 23 vessels. Mixed craft, Iron-proud cutters, ballista scows, caged skywings, some creatures inside. Flag is black sunburst encircling white gear. Carcassan Merchant Consortium by heraldry. Not hostile yet, crews collecting flow shards to feed crystal engines. Mina responded, engage only if they advance on Colonel sight. Maintain distance but visible deterrence. Far ahead, the column of light no longer visible, sunlight washed it out, but auroral magenta remained dense above central fissure. Mina guided wing to form shield near fissure, spiraling at different altitudes, letting scale sheen reflect dawn to create optical barrier. Carcassan scouts sighted them, horns echoed, ships shifted course, giving birth. Phase 2 commenced, conduit building. Kalira's second wave arrived towing quartz pylons slung under barges. Dragons landed on ice shelf near fissure, steam bursts, cracking noises, yet their weight distributed by foot claws prevented breakthrough. Engineers in fur-lined armor drilled holes with obsidian augers anchored first ring of pylons. Lyram's team placed heart crystal carved with runes, Pyrith breathed golden smoke, sealing microfractures. Ilithai, perched on Thaloi saddle high overhead, sang lines of the hymn into a silver horn. Dragons echoed deeper register roars. Resonant vibration traveled through pylons into ground. Ice underfoot trembled but didn't shatter, magenta glow dimmed a shade. Progress. Suddenly, shouts from west flank. Eric's voice crackled urgent. Carcassans deploying war automata, steam titans with lightning lances. They've set course toward ring. Mina cursed. Hold them off. Non-lethal if possible. She kicked Nyaxares into dive. Air shrieked. He dropped toward pylon ring, wings half furled, tail steering. Mina signaled Thalois to guard seers. Nyaxares leveled above surface, soared toward thunder of machinery. Steam titans lumbered across ice on wide sled feet, hulls of riveted brass, chimneys venting scalding vapor. Atop each, an engineer in waxed greatcoat cranked dynamos powering crackling azure bolts. Behind stomped heavy exosuits with harpoon rifles. Their intent clear, claim fissure by force. Eric and 4 riders strafed vanguard. Serathrax exhaled copper fire, melting ice into moat. Titan slowed, tread squealing. A lightning lance arced, grazing Serathrax's wingtip, scorching membrane. Dragon howled but regained lift. Mina arrived, whirling Nyaxares between titans and ring. She projected voice via horn. Turn back. This colonel imperils all. We erect conduit to vent safely. Collaborate or withdraw. The lead engineer raised goggles, poised megaphone. We are Consortium Research Guild. Glacier stands within trade charter. We harness power for global benefit. Relinquish or be detained. Mina glared. Global benefit? Colonels destroy continents when mishandled. Leave. The engineer signaled volley. Harpoons hissed skyward, trailing cables. Nyaxares rolled, but one barb scraped flank, embedding. Cable tightened, tethering dragon to titan. Nyaxares roared, wings beating, ice splintering. Mina slashed tether with short sword. Sparks flew. She spurred Nyaxares into fiery breath. Plasma shot melting harpoon sled into molten slag. Steam billowed. Engineer fled. But titans behind open volley of lightning. Bolts snapped across sky. One struck pylon, cracking quartz. Energy recoiled, arced into fissure. Ground shook. Magenta glow surged, intensifying. Ilithai's voice broke mid-hymn. Mina's heart hammered. They must shield pylons. She whistled code. Dragons formed shield cluster around ring, wings overlapping to deflect bolts. Scaled hide dispersed charge into ground. Meanwhile, riders of Wyvern courier squad swooped, launching nets soaked in quick freeze resin onto Titan chimneys. Engines sputtered, extinguished. Consortium forces faltered but did not retreat. Instead, they unleashed caged skywings, gargoyle-like constructs powered by thaumic crystals. The clockwork beasts jetted through air, claws of steel, eyes burning electric. They dove toward seers, ignoring dragons. Thalaris intercepted first, shredding brass wings with talons, but 2 more zipped under and fired grapples at pylons, attempting to pull them down. Mina barked order. Pyrith exhaled sterilizing smoke which corroded gear joints in midair, seizing them. The constructs plummeted. Skirmish raged. Engineers hurled smoke bombs releasing copper gas that dulled dragon senses. But Pyritha's counter-aerosol neutralized quickly. At last, seeing losses mount, the consortium blasted retreat horns. Titans reversed, heavy treads churning snow. Dragons chased until they crossed boundary line beyond Fissure, then withdrew to ring. Lines quieted. Mina inspected damage. 2 pylons shattered, but replacements stood ready. Lyram's team installed while Pyrith coated cracks. After hours, full lattice complete. Ilithai resumed him, dragons harmonized. The magenta glow waned gradually. By dusk, Fissure sealed under translucent shell of refrozen ice, energy vented skyward in controlled ribbon of light, swirling but no longer violent. Aurora shifted again, colors evening to turquoise and jade. Yet Council could not celebrate. The consortium fleet anchored beyond horizon. Spies reported them seeking alliances with Carcassan war hosts, negotiating mercenaries. They would return. In night camp, Mina convened core team inside igloo of ice bricks warmed by small lava stone. Exhaustion lined faces. She addressed them. First conduit stabilizes kernel, but only for a season. We must craft permanent nexus, like storm coils integrated with ley lines to bleed pressure across world. That requires more quartz than we can ferry. And guardianship treaty recognized by our valley, the Carcassans, and coastal realms. Calm Amber Tarvian, patched through stone, replied, negotiation unlikely unless we show strength. They fear what they don't control. Calyra suggested, we invite their engineers. Let them inspect kernel safely. Show we aim for stability, not weaponry. If they witness the destructive potential they saw today, they may choose cooperation. Eric snorted. Or they'll memorize secrets and build their own conduits poorly, causing catastrophe. Mina weighed. Trust is risk, but war is doom. We'll meet them. However, we'll set terms, meeting atop neutral ice island at dawn, each side limited escort, no weapons heavier than sidearms. Dragons will monitor skies. If they refuse, we escalate blockade. They drafted message, bound it to Smokequill arrow, fired across Ice Valley to consortium line. Hours later reply returned, agreement to parley. Parley morning dawned crimson gold. Rising sun cast long shadows across mirror ice. At meeting point, Mina approached astride Nyaxares, dismounted into crunching snow. Calyra joined on Virelios, while Eric and Sarathrax circled above. Opposite, a tall woman in ornate brass exosuit stepped off iron sledge. Curved lenses framed eyes of steely green. She introduced herself, Director Gemma Carcass, head of advanced energetics. Behind stood 3 guards, holstered spark guns. Mina bowed with warrior courtesy. Director, we share sky heavy with peril. Gemma's voice crackled through rebreather grill. Indeed, my board values knowledge and profit, but we also value planet intact. Your display yesterday impressive. Yet you hold monopoly on draconic resonance. We require equal stake. Stake implies stewardship, not extraction, Mina answered. She gestured toward Fissure where auroral plume danced serenely. The kernel is living flame. It reacts to greed like flesh to brand. If you drill, glacier fractures, sea level rises. Entire northern coastlines drown. Gemma's brows knit. Evidence? Mina produced small crystal phial glowing faint violet. Meltwater sample from Fissure yesterday oversaturated with pyrotic ions. Unstable. Our conduit siphoned safely. Without dragons singing, meltdown. She offered phial. Gemma examined instruments whirring on wrist gauntlet. Numbers scrolled, her gaze darkened. The board must see peer review, she said. Bring your scientists, Mina allowed. Underwatch, they can test. Join project rather than oppose. We share flow energy for limited grids, maintain valve thresholds. Profit modest but recurring. Earth spared. Gemma hesitated. I will petition. But board includes war profiteers. They crave quick power. Mina's eyes hardened. Then no, dragons will defend. Doom already kinder than a wrath if forced. At that, Nyaxares spread wings, blocking sun. Gemma's guards flinched. Gemma exhaled. Negotiation continues. For now, cease hostilities. She extended gloved hand. Mina clasped. Weeks followed of tense dialogue. Consortium scientists measured conduit, amazed at efficiency but dismayed reliance on dragon resonance they could not reproduce. Some attempted sabotage, but were foiled. One rogue tried to cut a pylon shard. Valerius captured him without bloodshed. Consortium gradually accepted partnership. Meanwhile, Ilithai and Lyram worked with Carcassan electromages to craft hybrid resonator crystals, enabling future kernels to be stabilized even in lands sparse of dragons using artificial wavelengths harmonized to recorded Drake songs. Prototype small, but proof of concept. Time passed, glacier conduit crystallized in Oh, permanent prism tower encasing kernel like frozen heartbeat. Skydawn's influence spread, alliances forged with coastal city-states, trade convoys exchanging quartz and grain for healing smoke vials. Tarvian's bulwark riders patrolled new skyways, escorting merchant wind sails. Dragons became symbol of equilibrium, not dominance. Yet Mina felt faint unease. Every conduit stitched into world changed the lay, rewriting pulse lines. Balance delicate, she convened conclave of dawn, seers, engineers, dragon hearts to plot atlas of energy, adjust flows. Knowledge replaced fear. Years later, children hatched during Doom's aftermath flew side by side with dragons matured under Ember Peace. They told stories of time when greed nearly sundered world, but courage welded fissure into mosaic of hope. One evening, Mina climbed Starhaven balcony once more. Nyaxres landed, talons gentle upon stone. He lowered head, she rested forehead to snout. Across valley, thousands of fire kites rose, honoring 15th Ember Peace Festival. Auroral ribbons flickered emerald and gold, no hint of magenta. Eric joined her, hair fully silver now. World steadier than we left it, he mused. Mina smiled. For now. Think kernels sleep content? They dream, she said. Dreams can wake restless. But we listen. We learn. We guide. Below, laughter echoed, drums thumped, dragons sang. Above, stars burned eternal. And on horizon, beyond sight but felt, a new dawn waited, never free of shadows, yet suffused with embers tendered by those who dared tame fire without chains. Steam curled off the hot stone path that wound among the valleys of sky dawn as if the mountain itself exhaled, even though dawn's first chill still silvered the air. Winter was loosening its grip, the cedars wore ice only in shadows now, but vents of molten rock, funneled by careful channels, kept the ground warm enough for mosses to glow green in the pre-sunlight hush. Maurice, a boy of 16 seasons, knelt where the path crossed a rivulet. He braced a glyph-etched tuning fork against a pile of slate, tapped it with a bronze striker, and closed his eyes. A low tone hummed, barely within human hearing. Seconds later, an answering vibration thrummed through the soles of his boots, rising in pitch until he felt it in his teeth. He grinned. The conduit beneath was singing true. Above him on the ridgeline, his bond sister Miriel stood half-silhouetted, wind tugging her midnight braid. Her cloak snapped like a sail as she leaned forward, calling down, sweet resonance? Maurice laughed. Steady as the North Star. Good. The elders want the loop stable before witness ride. He slapped his gloves against his thighs and started climbing. Do you ever tire of tasks? He asked between breaths when he crested the ridge. Every dawn's another inspection. We're wing apprentices, not maintenance mules. Miriel raised an eyebrow. Would you rather be stuck in archives copying Seer's riddles? Maybe. Archives are warm. They turn to admire the panorama stretching south toward the old Doom Scar. Once an abyss of smoldering chasms, now a vivid patchwork of emerald valleys striped by silver rivers. Auroral ribbons hovered faint in broad daylight. Green, sapphire, sometimes a blush of amber. Proof that the conduit lattice beneath had diffused enough kernel energy to irrigate life without boiling it. Yet all was not perfect. To the east, beyond 3 blue ridges, a haze lay heavy. The smog of Blackforger's Hall, where consortium guilds processed voltaic ore. Trade had brought clever machinery, but also hunger for power. And farther beyond, the sea of ghosts glittered pewter under thick clouds. Rumors said whirlpools the size of towns had begun to appear, devouring ships without trace. Miriel watched the horizon. Do you feel it? She asked quietly. Maurice shook his head. Feel what? Drums. Very far away. Thunder underwater. Grand Seer Ilithai says the colonels dream louder every year. She fears they're waking each other through lay echoes, like children telling stories past bedtime. He considered. Maurice had inherited sharp hearing. Sometimes, when the valley slept, he could make out the low mechanical heartbeats of the oldest dragons. This morning he noticed something different, a kind of pulse from deeper in the earth, faint but arrhythmic. He shrugged it off. If the colonels start gossiping, we'll just add another conduit, he joked. More workshops for us, more dancing lights for the sky. Everyone wins. Miriel's mouth twitched but did not smile. Everything has a limit. Even the sky. A horn pealed from Starhaven Tower, echo rolling across pines. The apprentices exchanged a glance, summons for full wing muster. They broke into a run along the ridge trail, boots striking sparks on embedded basalt. Dragons waited in circular Ares terrace down the amphitheater slope. Nyaxares and Thalois occupied the highest perches like twin elder gods, scale still radiant, though age faintly dulled their edges. Below, younger drakes preened, Pyritha's copper hide glistening, Miraglider twins Hath and Hallis dueling with crackling sparks, and near the east wall a sleek silver hatchling clambering over her own tail. Maris reached his partner, Arthelin, a lean red whose wingtips tipped black like ink dropped in fire. He rubbed Arthelin's jaw hinge, feeling the rumble of affection. Miriel vaulted to Cloudweaver, a lilac female whose wings shimmered like soap bubbles. On the command dais, Mina herself emerged, wearing travel armor lacquered in subdued dusk colors. At her side stood Eric, grizzled but alert, and Director Gemma Karkas in tailored leather flight gear, unlikely companions sharing one parchment. Murmurs rippled through ranks. Mina raised a hand, silence falling. Skywards, we ride beyond our boundaries. 7 days ago 3 vessels vanished in the Sea of Ghosts, no storm, no wreckage. 2 nights after, auroral sensors registered delta spikes tenfold over safe threshold. The pulses originated beneath the sea trench we call Throat of Narvith. Ilithai discerns a new kernel signature, unmapped. Gemma stepped forward. The consortium deployed submersible probes. All signals failed within minutes, crushed or burned. A telemetry glimpsed structures, columns of crystalline basalt forming a spiral path. We suspect the kernel is at ocean floor depth. If it breaches uncontrolled, water flash boils, generating tsunamis from Carcassa to Old Volantis. Mina's gaze swept riders. We'll not let doom rise again. A joint sortie, dragons, flight cutters, submersible gliders will survey, locate vent points, and establish trinode conduits on the seabed. Seawater complicates resonance, so we need specialized song. Pyritha's breath oils show promise, binding sound through brine. Whispers erupted. Seabed resonators were theoretical. Dragon riders rarely ventured far from atmospheric flight. Eric barked, fear later. Pack now. We leave at dusk. Mary's heart pounded, not with dread, but exhilaration. At last real mission beyond valley routine. Miriel clasped his wrist. We'll fly formations 1 and 2. Keep your mind clear. Preparations blurred. Smiths hammered brine-resistant anchor frames, alchemists distilled Pyritha's antifungal oil with kelp resin, seers inscribed spiral runes onto mica plates. Dragons were fitted with rebreather veins, flexible gill-like membranes allowing shallow submergence. Dusk-tinted peaks rose gold. Riders mounted. Arthelin trembled under Mary's, sensing tension. Cloudweaver unfurled vast translucent wings. As horns sounded, 30-plus dragons leapt skyward, escorting 3 clockwork airships whose belly bays cradled folding aquaglide skiffs. They sped east under stars. Night deepened, auroral ribbons throbbed bright. Green fading to anxious lavender. Mary dozed in saddle, dreams of drums underwater. By midday the next day they crossed last coastal ridge and beheld the Sea of Ghosts. Flat steel stretched to horizon, as if worlds forge cooled without ripples. Frost haze drifted above mirror surface, distorting sun. The fleet touched down on a sliver of sandspit called Silent Hook. Engineers unfurled telescopic masts, stringing harmonic sensors. Ilithai hummed into crystal bowls, adjusting tone until bowls vibrated in sympathy. Readings flickered amber, unstable but not yet lethal. They had time, maybe days. Gemma assembled submersible crews. Pressurized glider pods shaped like manta rays, wings of bronze mesh. Each carried 2 riders and 1 dragon, juveniles trained for brief dives. Pyrith paired with Gemma in flagship pod. Mina and Nyaxares would scout overhead. Relay resonance. Maris and Miriel were assigned support circle, high-altitude watchers, ready to dive if something breached. They accepted with mixed pride and disappointment. Real action would be below waves. Unfolding of mission began at dawn. Pods slid into water with hiss of steam. Dragons followed, bodies slicked with seal fat to insulate. Ocean swallowed them without a bubble. Hours stretched. Overhead, sky remained too calm. Mary circled with Arthelin at 3,000 feet, scanning aquamarine expanse. He checked resonance stone, quiet static. Then, mid-afternoon, lightning forked across a cloudless sky, bolts of magenta leaping from sea to stratosphere. Radios crackled alive. Gemma's voice distorted, massive fissure pulling, pressure spike, then static. Below, water bulged outward in perfect rings. A plume of steam jetted a mile high, pure white. Mary's stomach lurched. Diver extraction, he barked into horn. Command flags snapped, dragons dived. The plume became a column, churning white turning crimson, seawater flash boiling, infused with iron. A roar louder than any volcano shook the air. Out of the vortex rose a spire of obsidian crusted with coral, then shattered, revealing within a pulsing core of violet fire. Kernel breached. Arthelin fought updrafts. Waves beneath heaved into mountain-high walls. Somewhere down there pods tumbled. Maris counted scattered bubbles, no sign of dragons surfacing. Nyaxares streaked overhead, Mina shouting, "Stabilize outer ring, use wind shear to break steam." Dragons formed circle, wing beats generating downdrafts. Steam deflected sideways, condensing. But lava fountains now erupted through cracks, water exploding into shrapnel. Sudden shape burst from foam, Pyrrhus, scales blackened, one wing trailing tatters. He struggled upward, clutching Gemma's limp body in foreclaws. Mary started to help. He glimpsed Gemma breathing, relief brief. Other dragons surfaced, 3, 4, but Cloudweaver missing. Miriel, diving without permission, plunged after her. Arthelin twisted toward descending shapes. Shards of crystal imprinted with spiral glyphs soared upward, riding heat. Kernel shards dangerous and volatile. They could seed new fault lines if they landed inland. Mina bellowed, "Intercept fragments." Mary spurred Arthelin. They dived, intercepting one shard the size of a cart. He guided Dragonfire in a high-intensity burst, melting core until energy diffused as harmless sparks. Others repeated. A bigger threat brewed, sea receded, drawn into chasm, revealing glistening trench mouth. The void inhaled, winds screaming. Mary saw dragons dragged sideways, wings straining. Ilithai cried via horn, "If water returns at speed, wall of death 40 leagues." Emergency plan emerged, blow pressure vent channels before vacuum collapse to cushion inrush. That meant breaching coral ring around Kernel, cracking crust to bleed heat sideways. Nyaxares and Elder Dragons alone had flame hot enough. Mina signaled Maris and support riders to shepherd younger drakes away. Elders descended. They unleashed hellfire into ring basalt, carving radial fissures. Glow intensified, then hiss of steam gentled, suction eased. Still, water would return heavy. High above, ART-CAL arrays aboard airship measured G-forces. Gemma revived, calculated angles. They detonated remote charges in glider pods now empty, shockwaves stirred currents, disrupting linear wave. Not enough. Thunder boomed, Cloudweaver erupted from depths trailing Miriel on backup saddle, both coated in frost. She screeched triumph, but behind her an enormous shape followed, not dragon, nor machine, but skeletal serpent of fused coral and shard, animated by kernel plasma. Its jaw glowed white V-violet, spitting arcs. A guardian born of Kernel's fury. It lunged at Cloudweaver. Miriel swerved, serpent missed, slamming into water surface, rising again. Its body spanned furlongs, each scale a blade. Mary's blood iced. He drove Arthelin between serpent and rookery flight path. Others joined. Pyrrhus, despite injuries, Haith and Hallis weaving in. They peppered serpent with bursts. Fire slagged coral, but plasma healed wounds. Ilithai shouted, "It feeds on raw resonance. Must sever node within skull. Only a song blade tuned to same frequency can cleave." Song blade. Ceremonial longswords forged with crystal lattices. Each keyed during rider-dragon bonding. Maris carried his. Miriel too. But who could get close? Nyaxares roared challenge, diving claws out. Serpent met him in midair. Collisions sending shards. Mina clung but could not strike skull. She called for second vector. Maris and Miriel locked eyes across sky. They converged. Plan wordless. Miriel would distract. Maris deliver blow. Cloudweaver darted. Fainting at Serpent's flank. Showering gale of freezing breath. New trick learned in deep water. Plasma skin crusted, stiffening just enough. Serpent whipped tail. Cloudweaver climbed, nearly crushed. Arthelin dove along tail line, hugging body to avoid arcs. Maris drew Songblade. He felt Dragon's heart rhythm sync with crystal. They raced up coil toward skull, whirled a blur of violet lightning and boiling mist. At crest, Serpent opened jaw wider than a villa. Maris glimpsed molten core swirling inside. He rolled left, using momentum to swing onto Skullridge. Heat blistered his skin beneath armor. He raised blade, sang first note of Novaeli through grit teeth. Blade vibrated, humming harmony that pierced roar. He drove blade downward between coral plates. Crystal met crystal, flash of white. Skull fissured, wave of resonance erupted, flinging Maris and Arthelin sideways. Serpent convulsed, mouth-spewing column of violet flame that arced harmlessly to sky. Then its glow dimmed, it collapsed, crashing into sea with hiss like 10,000 smithies dunking irons. Moment later, ocean wall rushed inward. But radial vents and detonations tamed its fury, returning water lifted only moderate swells. Dragons herded waves offshore. The sea calmed, Colonel once more submerged but venting through new fissures gently. Aftermath long, salvage crews rescued pod wreckage, healers treated burns. 7 dragons killed, 15 riders injured. Yet Rookery survived, coastline spared tsunamis. Council met aboard anchored airship as rain began. Mina's eyes shone with grief and pride. She clasped Mary's forearms. "Your strike turned the tide," she said. He shook head, gaze on Miriel, who rested with Cloud Weaver. Ilithai declared the event harbinger, Colonels waking now birth guardians, artificial beasts woven from local matter, keyed to resonance. Next time might be bigger, many. Conduits alone inadequate. Gemma proposed bold project, Starhim Array, network of orbital mirrors constructed from shard glass, able to redirect Dragon's song globally, damping kernel surges before Guardians gestate. Ridiculous scale, but Consortium had skyclad technology, Valley had dragons. Mina commissioned design, world mobilized. Carcassonne shipyards built stratokites, alchemists forged reflective petals. Dragons ferried bundles to upper jet streams where solar winds caught them. Maris and Arthelin helped deploy First Mirror, watching it unfold like a silver lotus against cosmos. Its surface glowed faint with stored resonance. Years raced, arrays multiplied, forming shimmering mesh seen at twilight like faint second constellation. Colonels stirred, but their dreams met lullaby of mirrored song. Guardians attempted births, yet energy dissipated. Seas calmed. Peace earned, but vigilance perpetual. Maris, now captain, trained new cohort, teaching art of listening, first step to taming stonefire. Miriel led ambassador flights between Valley and Consortium, forging trust. One night on Starhaven balcony, Maris found Mina gazing at sky where arrays glimmered. She spoke, voice softer than wind. Fire once meant end. Now it means beginning. We could shape not just this world, but moons beyond if we respect balance. Maris nodded. We carry song, we guard dream. And we remember sacrifice. Dragons overhead answered with chorus bellow, resonance that rippled across arrays, making them sparkle. Under that radiance, worlds slept calmer, knowing while kernels might dream, so too did guardians of harmony keep watch, wings outstretched from mountain valleys to outer heavens. Thus the age of Ember Peace matured into the age of Starhim, a testament that even Doom's deepest fires could be tempered into light, so long as hearts remained tuned to the humble music of the Earth's slow, patient pulse.